The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you can hear me. I have attempted to take you all out of listen-only mode, so I think I might be able to speak to you. I've got Josie, Julie, Rachel, Rebecca and Samantha, hopefully with me at the moment.
Yep. Yep, hi.
If you say your names and then I can actually hear you.
Julie.
Josie.
Sam. Rebecca Walls. Rebecca Wassell.
Wonderful. Can you all hear each other?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Fantastic. I've worked out how to do it, so that's... it's only taken 4 meetings with the IT guys, but hopefully this could work. So the whole point of today's session was to do a Q&A, really, about anything that you've covered so far, anything that you don't understand, anything you want me to review or revise, and then any questions about your assignments. If you want to have a one-to-one at the end, then please let me know and I can ring you all ring any of you individually. But those of you who are here now, have you got any specific questions? Or would you like me to cover anything again? I can hear you whispering. Hello?
Hello.
Any questions from anybody?
I just want to check the hand-in dates. I know it's online somewhere. It's the 15th of January.
It is the 12th of January.
Oh.
If you go to the Moodle site for MCH 501, which I'm just opening very slowly on my other computer, I put some additional information. If you look at the announcements page, critical review of the literature with a sort of funny looking hand and a piece of paper, that's your assignment information. If you click that under that section, then very, very slowly it will open. And it gives you a very specific guidelines. Being on Monday the 12th of January, it says 12 a.m., but it should actually read 1600, so I'll amend that later. I will start accepting assignments from the 12th of December if you want to submit it early. Some of you might want to get it in before Christmas. Then there is a breakdown of the word count and the marks for each section, and that follows the assignment guidelines I gave you a few weeks ago. So it's all there, and there is a assignment submission tutorial available online if you need any additional assistance. Okay, so it's the 12th of January, it's due in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Rachel,
Yes.
Because I've got my subject and was looking through all the papers. I'm getting quite a big search thing back. Do we only include papers that are trials? Like, so we wouldn't like include things that are reviews or just articles?
Well, it's always, in any critical review of the literature, it's always nice to have a mix. You predominantly want research articles. So those research articles may be in the form of trials, so randomized controlled trials, but they also might be in the form of some qualitative research. So it would be nice to have a depth and breadth of the literature. That might not always be appropriate because depending on your subject area, there may be no qualitative research out there. I know I've had a couple of conversations about specific subject areas that are very quantitative in their research. So it's nice to get a depth and a breadth of the literature. In terms of reviews, other literature reviews, they are great at adding to your discussion. but they shouldn't
right.
be the primary point of your discussion. So you can always add a few in because other reviews are always useful to, for discussion points.
So you just use the reviews as like a supporting comment to what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, hi Rachel, it's Sam. I'm just wondering whether, just to get an overview really, so for this one we need to do a literature review and then critically analyse it, and then the next module will be a systematic review of trials, and then which we'll then put forward towards our dissertation.
No, this one, well, yeah, yes and no. Okay, this module, so MCH 501 is very much critical review of the literature. So we've looked at what is quantitative research, we've looked at what is qualitative research. There's a narrated PowerPoint, I'm sure you're aware today, from Ruth about ethics. And then you've got 2 sessions remaining about analysis of qualitative and quantitative research. So what I want from this assignment is that you have picked a subject area and you have read the literature, you've reviewed the literature, and what you're going to be presenting to me is a critical review of that literature. When we move on to the next module, which is MCH 502, which starts in April, then we're going to be very much looking at it in practical terms, because the end point of your critical review is a research question or statement that you want to take further. So then we will be taking that question or statement and developing a research proposal, so an actual study that you're going to do, which is why, as I said right back at the beginning, it's not assignments for assignment's sake. This is all building towards your dissertation. So in the next module, we will be building together a research proposal, and your assignment for MCH 502 is the research proposal that you can then take to ethics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. Yes, thank you.
So if you choose as your dissertation in the next year to do a systematic review, then your research proposal will be a proposal of a systematic review. So you won't be talking about sample sizes and ethical, you will be talking about a different project plan. Some of you may decide to do a systematic review as your dissertation, which you can do.
Rather than actually doing a research project.
Rather than doing an actual piece of research. And that's your decision for the sort of next module. Depending on your subject area, it may not be appropriate, ethical, even possible to actually do a research study on it. So it might be more appropriate to do a systematic review.
Okay, I think I'll talk to you at the end.
Okay.
Rachel, do we have to do a separate ethics application? It's Julie, sorry. Because I've got the chance to submit my research as a substantial amendment to the professor that I work with. Can I do that?
Yes, you can in terms of your ethical clearance. The two things are slightly different. The assignment for MCH 502 is a research proposal. So Julie, in terms of your assignment, you will have to write a research proposal. And that, for many, will be what we submit to research and development or MREC, COREC in the future. If your study itself is becoming an amendment to an existing study, then your ethics will be slightly different. But you'll still have to write a research proposal for the assignment, if you see what I mean.
But could I get on and do the ethics application now if I could start my research?
Yes, you can, but you'll need to have a conversation with myself and Jenny, because in terms of the academic component of it, you need to have somebody supervising from the university.
Can I talk to you at the end?
Yes, of course you can.
Thank you.
Okay. Which in your case, Julie, will probably be Heather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so I will have a quick conversation with Heather probably via email and Jenny, and it will probably be Heather anyway that supervises particularly your subject area. I expect it will be Heather.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Kate, you've joined us recently and I've got you, hopefully you can join and talk to us if you want to.
Sorry, Rachel. I was actually going to ask a similar thing to Julie about whether or not we can start, putting in ethics proposals early.
Who am I talking to?
Rebecca Wassell, sorry.
Okay.
So should I just try and talk to you and Heather?
Yes, again, I'd need to know your subject area because obviously we need to put the correct supervisor with you. Ethics.
Yeah, I think it would be Heather because I've spoken to Lucy about it.
And I'm sure if it is appropriate for Heather to be your supervisor, then that's fine. Obviously, she can't have everybody. Yes, if it's appropriate for you to start the ethics journey now, then absolutely do so, because these things can take an awfully long time.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
But you will still have to write a theoretical research proposal for them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
of course, yeah.
In a way, you're going to do a chicken and egg situation, but that's unavoidable in some cases.
Yeah, of course. Okay, great.
The benefit for you is that you will be able to demonstrate that you've got a working research proposal prior to the module, but you will still have to go through the exercise.
Of course, yeah. That's fine.
Okay, any other questions?
I have another question, but it's not really to do with the assignment. It was to do with some of the PowerPoints from a couple of weeks ago to do with validity.
Right, yes.
I just didn't really get the concepts of the internal and content and criterion validity. I was wondering.
Do you remember which presentation that was in, and I'll have a little look at it?
Validity and reliability of research instrument.
Right.
From a PowerPoint from a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
It was put on there.
I'm just waiting for it to open so I can have a look at it quickly.
Of course, yeah.
And my internet seems to be unbelievably slow. I don't suppose you can remember which of the 4 quantitative presentations.
It was called Validity and Reliability of Research Instrument.
I had a 50-50 chance of opening the right one and didn't, so let's have a look. So, validity and reliability used in research to determine the soundness of the study in relation to the constructs under investigations, is that what? And it talked about factors affecting the reliability of the tool, and then went on to talk about instrument design reliability.
Yes, that's it, yeah. So it was before, the sort of slide before it was saying about instrument design validity, where it's got explanations of internal and content and criterion validity, and constructs validity as well.
Right, so I've got a slide which says methods of determining reliability, which we look at internal consistency and external consistency. Is that what your question is about?
It was on the slide 3 slides on from that.
Right, types of validity, internal validity,
yeah.
content validity, how far the measure covers all dimensions of the concept, face validity, and how people have answered a new measure of the concept with existing widely accepted measures of the concept. Wow, that sounds complicated, doesn't it? What are we looking at when we look at the principles of validity and reliability? Because it's very different in qualitative versus quantitative. In quantitative research, you've got to think about the whole exercise is very structured and tested. So you look at If, for example, you were sending a questionnaire and that was your instrument of measure, or your experiment and that was your instrument of measure, what you will have done is you would have, so we'll take the example of a questionnaire, looking at internal validity. So I've taken all the variables out of the equation and I have given the test to all these different people and I've come up with similar answers. So I'm therefore saying that the test is valid. So what I've then got to do is I've got to ensure that the people I've given the test to are all the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I had a room full of people, or all who had indigestion, for example, okay, really simple. This is a really simplistic example. So I've got 30 people in the room, and they've all got indigestion, and I'm going to do some sort of questionnaire to reliably and for a valid and reliable study on them to see how effective a treatment is. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So the questionnaire I'm going to give them, I have to make sure that that questionnaire gives the same answers to all of those people. So I've made sure that all the people are the same, so they're all 35 to 40, they've all got reasonable education, they all speak English, they've all got indigestion described as the same, they're all the same weight, the same size, the same, which would be virtually impossible. But I've done all of those. I've taken all the internal, all the variables out of the equation, and I've given a questionnaire to them. And I can say that it is reliable and valid if all the responses I get back are the same.
Okay.
Yeah? But if I give that test to them and then I get lots and lots of difference, that means that they're interpreting the question differently. So if I ask 2 different people the same question, do I get the same answer? And if I don't, then that test is not internally reliable because people are they are interpreting the concepts differently, or they are interpreting the questions differently. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah? You're not doing that in qualitative research. You don't do it in the same way. But in quantitative research, you have to make sure that you're going to get the same result. Because you can't, otherwise you can't say you proved something. So if your aim of your research question is to prove that this particular indigestion treatment is the best, you have to ensure that the test you're using is completely internally and externally reliable and valid. And that's quite difficult. So you will find when you look at quantitative research that they've given you some limitations to the study. And there's always limitations to any study when you study human beings. Okay? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. So how does it fit qualitative research then?
Well, you've got to go right back to the beginning, and if you remember those lovely words we used when we did that introduction to research, we talked about ontology and epistemology,
Mm-hmm.
and my aim of my study is not to prove something. So I don't have to say that this test is reliable and valid, because I'm not seeking to say that this is the best indigestion tablet. Do you see what I mean? So if my question and my topic is qualitative in nature, then I'm not seeking to prove something. I therefore don't need to establish the same level of reliability and validity. And what I do in qualitative research is I say that there is a degree of representativeness or transferability. So if I had a similar group of people in a similar set of circumstances, I could say that they felt similar things. So my aim is not the same. I therefore don't have to go about it in the same way.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thank you.
And this is what makes it very important that you know from what perspective you're coming at a question. Because if at the beginning of your research proposal you can clearly state what your ontology and epistemology is, then your research proposal and therefore your research follows a natural path. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
If you say right at the beginning that if you're going to be a chocolate cake, you know you need this set of ingredients. If you're saying you're going to be a Victoria sponge, you need that set of ingredients. And research proposals very much like making a cake. Because there's no point in talking about having a chocolate cake if you don't have any chocolate in it. Which when we come to write our research proposals will make possibly a little bit more sense. I'll talk a lot about cakes when I talk about research proposals.
Rachel, it's Rebecca Laws. I've got a question, please.
Yes?
Right at the beginning of the course, you gave us an example of how to write a critical review. It's the review paper regarding HIV and AIDS.
Oh, yeah.
Halls et al.
Yes.
It's a thematic literature review, and I've just been looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to ask whether or not that's how, I mean, I know I wouldn't do it word for word, but is that how you want our critical review section, or, you know, the headings and things? Is that the sort of format we need to follow?
Absolutely, and if you look at the marking criteria for the assignment, it follows very much a similar pattern. I've got an introduction pattern, an introduction section, where I've asked you to introduce and set the scene. I've then got a search strategy section, and that's written out. And you might want to include sort of some sort of text box or any kind of visual to help you in that one. And I think in that article they used a nice graph, you know, a nice table. And then developing the themes. So the main section of which you've got 60 marks for is the next bit that comes. Does that? So actually, it matches quite nicely the assignment guidelines.
Okay, it's just that they sort of, you have to state your abstract, and I can't find it now because I've just picked off it. Where's it gone? We have to find it again.
Yeah, I'll just try and open it myself. But it's
This is critical review. Here we go. So we've got abstract, then it says background, data sources, review methods, results,
yes.
keywords.
Yes, and that bit's the bit that's going to go in your second section.
Okay. Okay. So I need to look at that with the marking criteria that you gave us.
Absolutely.
Would you do that front page the same as they've done it?
The front page. I'm visually waiting for it to open.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of headings on it. Search outcome. I mean, it's when you look at it, it's actually does make it. It does break it down, but I'm reading some of it and I'm thinking, oh, that's ever so in depth.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a limited number of words, so don't.
Isn't it? So I'm thinking I'm never going. Mind you, tables don't count, do they?
No, they don't. Which is why in this particular example, it might be a little sneaky way of getting quite a lot of information in front of me without using up your 3,000 words.
Right.
So that's why I do very much advocate the use of a quick text box with your keywords and how you refined your keywords down and some of a statement of your inclusion and exclusion criteria, databases and so on. The King article does it in a lot more detail, so you don't need that level of detail, but there needs to be a sort of audit trail for me so that I know where you got your articles and how you came about your articles and how you developed your thematic analysis.
Okay, because you also said you gave us a form where we could write down all the studies we may not maybe we haven't used in our, but we can still identify that we've done that reading.
Yes, absolutely, and that's your literature summary pages, and you can put those in the appendix. So again, they don't need the same, they don't get included in the word count. I mean, I don't go mad on that, because otherwise I could be marking it until a long...
So, Rachel, do we write an abstract?
Pardon? No, I don't want to. You're not presenting it to. You're not presenting it for a journal, so you don't need an abstract. Rachel, no, I'm not in the office at the moment. I am in Babbage, but I will be in the office at the end if you want to talk to me then.
So no abstracts needed.
No, you don't need an abstract.
And do you do it in the thin columns like they've done it, or just write it out?
No. That's a journal format. You don't need to worry about the format. Just normal assignments, pages, word processed, Arial, 12 point, double spaced, whatever. You know, nothing out of the ordinary. It's not. That's just because it's been published in the Advanced Journal of Nursing, or Advanced Journal of Clinical Nursing. I can't remember what it was.
Rachel, if we use the 10% margin, do we get marked down on that?
I'm not a huge fan of the 10% margin because I think a 3,000 word assignment should be 3,000 words, and the whole point of a 10% margin is that you'll not get penalised if you go to 3,300, and you'll not get penalised if you go below up to 2,700. But you've got to try and work to a 3,000 deadline. So don't.
If you have to do that and you just can't keep it to that.
Yeah, yes, and you won't be penalised if you're under the 10%. But think of it. Because the temptation is to think that you've got 3,300 words and you haven't. You've got 3,000 words, and if it goes a little bit over, that's fine. But your dissertation, for example, is a 15,000 word dead. So you've got to start thinking about these deadlines as, I mean, these word counts as sort of finite, if you can. I know that's quite difficult because it's a lot to write in 3,000 words.
And if you've done a big table, Rachel, so I've done all my papers in a big table, do I have to put it as an appendix, or can I put it in the body of my...
If it's in a text box, then you can put it in the body of the text and it won't account for your word count. If it works better that way, then fine. I won't be put off either way. It doesn't make a lot of difference. Sometimes it works better as an appendix.
Can we actually send that to you to have a look at, and you advise us where to put it? You're allowed to do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I'm very happy to look at drafts or an introduction or a piece if you want to check, make sure we're on the right tracks. I won't pre-mark it, so if you want to send me a draft, then send me 2 pages of the A4 and I'll have a look at those 2 pages. Or send me the introduction or so on. And I'll give you some feedback and make sure you're on the right track. And I'm happy to look at anything up till, well, it'll be about the 4th of January, so although,
We
you know,
can't send the whole thing.
pardon?
So, because I've written mine, so have I got to take bits out to send you, or can I just send it you and you just read part of it?
If you send me the whole thing, I'm not going to pre-mark it, so I'll just read the first couple of pages and tell you if you're on the right track or make any recommendations. But I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
We're not allowed to, actually. That's in our regulations. We don't pre-mark. So, but I'm happy to look at a couple of pages.
What about if we want you just to look at it for the layout rather than, do you know what I mean?
Well, I'll scan through the whole thing, but I'm not going to make detailed feedback on the whole assignment. I'll give you some feedback on the beginning or middle or end or whatever you want me to look at. But if I think that the layout's wrong, or I want you to make any changes to the layout, then I will tell you. Is that all right? I'm not sure who that was asking that question. But
Really, sorry.
okay.
No surprise.
It's not, I don't have voice recognition. I'm still quite tough that I worked out how to do this.
Just a general question to everybody. How difficult is using EndNote? I haven't tried it yet.
Easy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
When it doesn't vanish.
I've been told it revolutionises you.
I don't know how I would cope without it, to be honest.
Right, okay. So once you've done it a couple of times, you're in the swing, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in terms of you've got to think about this thing as a building block. And, you know I've said it before, but you're not doing this for doing its sake. It's building towards your dissertation. If you start using EndNote now, when it comes to submitting your dissertation in 15 months' time or whenever it is, it'll all be there. It's done. And you won't have to spend... When I wrote my first master's dissertation, I spent about 3 weeks typing out my blooming references. It was awful. Never want to do that again.
Okay, I'm going to endeavour.
Endeavour. There's a great online tutorial, and if you are able at all to come into Plymouth and make an appointment with one of the librarians, then they are fantastic at talking you through it.
I think I'm going to do that because I live locally, so yeah, okay.
Our subject librarian is a lady called Julie Moody, M-O-O-D-Y, and she is fantastic, and she would be very, very happy to sit down with you, as would any of the other people who work in the library, and they are brilliant. And there are about 4 of them, I think, who are EndNote specialists.
Okay.
So if you can make an appointment, and as I said, there are a couple of online tutorials to help you with it.
It's often easier if you've just literally got somebody sat next to you, isn't it?
Yes, but it's one of those things. I remember going to the session about it and then not using it, and then when you came to use it, you'd forgotten about it. So if you're using it now, then yeah, absolutely, it'll make your life so much easier.
Okay, thank you.
Where's the best place to get EndNote from?
Well, from the university. You can download it from the website, I'm pretty sure. As students.
I have a look at how to pay for it.
No, it's free.
Oh,
It's free for you. It's free for you students. I think you have to put in your username and login details, but it is free.
Do
Sorry?
you know if there are librarians in Cornwall that can help me, rather than coming up to Plymouth?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. They're just as good down there. I've forgotten. I don't have a name, but they're brilliant. They're just as good down there.
Oh, lovely, thanks.
Yeah, you don't have to come over the Tamar if you don't want to.
It's a dangerous place.
It is very dangerous, I know. So any other questions?
Julie, with the dissertation, I know we have a dissertation module,
Yeah.
but because we've got big gaps in between, the study blocks,
Mm-hmm.
for the next module, I don't want to waste that time. So can we have some guidelines, and maybe there's parts of the work that we could be, I could be doing?
Absolutely.
But I don't have it again. Because I sort of feel I'm on a flow now, and I want to keep going.
Yes. MCH 503, or is it 504, which is the code for the dissertation module.
Yeah.
Is if you're registered on the pathway, Julie, you should be able to see that Moodle site. Can you not see it?
How do you mean registered on the pathway?
Well, if you're registered for this module and the next module and the dissertation module, you should be able to see it.
Okay, let me have a try.
And if you can't, I'll have a word with course admin, because it's the 3 sort of form.
So where do I go? To the page that...
So if you go to your DLE page, you should be able to, sorry, my thing's going round incredibly slowly.
I don't think you can see it because you enroll onto it for next year, and that's when you can see it.
Right, so you might not be able to see it as it's next year's module.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I might do then is I'll have a quick chat with Jenny Morris, who's the module leader for the dissertation module, and see if she can put something up for you. I'll follow that up, because yes, I get what you're saying about you don't want to lose momentum.
And also, it's quite a big gap, isn't it?
Well, it is, yes. You've got basically next term, as it were, off,
Yeah.
and then you're back in April.
And I don't know about the others. I found that quite hard, having those gaps, and you've got to sort of start over again. And
Yes, there's you know, there's an admin reason for these things, and you know, yeah, it doesn't necessarily flow particularly well, but no, I'm just looking
so
at.
that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I will email Jenny today,
Thank you.
because I presume all of you are going to go on to do the dissertation, if not next year, soon.
Yeah. Will that be in September?
It will start in the end of September, yes. So it'll be the academic year 2015-16.
When would that be due in by?
Oh, you're testing me now, I don't know.
End of September 16.
Yeah, it would, yes, it would possibly, yeah, it usually comes in, it's a year, so it comes in the September. And you have the opportunity to present it in the May, so, or June. So yes, it will be September 2016. It will be due in. Seems like a long way away, doesn't it?
Yes.
Any other questions?
It's Josie. You were saying about the next module, people who will be doing like their own trial or thing, they'll be doing it. So I can't remember the name. The next research module will be you form your own research proposal.
Yes.
If you're doing a systematic review for your dissertation, how does that work?
Well, you write a proposal for your systematic review. So there's the same sort of it's slightly different framework, but it's a recipe for putting together your systematic review and how you're going to test it, because a systematic review means you're still going to ask a question, but you're going to use previously collected data to reanalyze your question. So you've still got to pose a question and look at how you're going to answer that question.
Okay.
So there's a different format in terms of your assignment for a systematic review proposal rather than a research proposal. And for a systematic review proposal, you don't need to get ethics.
Okay, thank you.
If you're using unpublished material to analyse, you just need permission. Those of you who are involved in different research environments might have access to unpublished research material that they might want to use. Out of interest, are any of you thinking of doing a systematic review?
Yeah, I was.
Is that Josie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not really sure yet. That's why I need to talk to you.
Okay. That's not a problem. There's certain members of the research teams that are experts in systematic reviews. Therefore, they will definitely be. I'll be allocating the supervisor. Or, you know, when Jenny allocates the supervisor, it's very important to have the right person helping you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Rachel, can you hear me now? This is Rachel.
Hello, Rachel. Yes, I can.
Something's been wrong for most of the time. I've got some questions written down.
Okay.
Could I see you off when you're back in your office?
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Right.
Any you think might be helpful to share or not?
One of them you've done already, which was about internal validity.
Lovely.
One was about a different lecture that talked about the difference between randomisation of a sample and a random sample.
Right.
Not sure I was sure about that.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that now?
That'd be great.
Okay, if you randomise a sample, that means you've collected your sample group together and then you've randomly allocated them to groups. So, for example, if you're doing a randomised control trial, you might have selected your sample group So you might be doing a piece of research on 18-year-old girls, and that's your sample. So you've collected your sample, and then following the collection of your sample, you randomise them into either a control group or a test group or whatever, depending on how your sample is going to be divided. So that's following the collection of your sample. So you've got your group of 100 18-year-old girls, and then you randomise them. Alternatively, you have the general population and you randomly select from a population your sample. So one is done prior to the sample selection and one is done after the sample selection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry, it's Sam again. On the ethics PowerPoint today that I did,
Yeah.
Ruth said that the researcher can't have the contact details of the participants.
Sorry.
So would that mean I have to get my colleagues to collect the data?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the question. Sorry, Sam. Could you say that again?
Ruth was saying that the researcher shouldn't have the contact details for the participants of the study, but for legal reasons.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to collect data from questionnaires or quality of life ideas, would I have to then get my colleagues to collect the data for me and then for me to analyse it?
No. It's what they say with ethics. It says that you shouldn't have their sort of address and telephone number, for example. So you might, but there's no reason why you couldn't have a group email or an electronic method of contacting your sample. It doesn't. It just means that the participants in your research studies have a degree of protection from you as well as you from them. So there always has to be sort of one degree of separation between you, so that they can either choose not to be contacted or, do you see what I mean? So it wouldn't be appropriate for you, for example, to have their home address and telephone number and mobile number and email. So you might say to them, I would like to select a mechanism by which you can be contacted and set up something that's slightly 1 degree separated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I was going to use the patients on the caseload.
You were going to use...
regular contact with.
Right.
So therefore I'd have all of that information, and my plan would be to review them every month. Collect data.
So, if you're doing a piece of research on a group of people that's in your caseload, what's going to happen if somebody says they want to be in the study and then decides they don't? Are you still going to see them?
Yes.
Right. Ethics might have a bit of a problem with that. So you might, would it be possible for them to see a different practitioner, or would it be possible for you to research somebody else's caseload?
Maybe.
You have to think about that carefully, because there's the idea, the whole point of ethics and that sort of protection is that would your patient's practitioner relationship be damaged in any way if they didn't want to be in the study, or they withdrew from the study, or, do you see what I mean? You're in a power relationship there, and so that's why in ethics they say, they want 1 degree of separation between you.
Right. Okay.
So it might be that you give them the option to go to a different practitioner, or you might have to work something specific out so that there wasn't a detrimental effect if they didn't want to be in the study.
Right. Okay.
And that's really what Ruth's talking about, because you can't have a sort of relationship of power over somebody that you're researching as well.
But my research subject would only be one aspect of their care.
Right. It might just take some very careful handling, that's all, and careful management. For example, I did a research study once looking at critical incident evaluation, But I was a senior solicitor at the time, and I can remember my research committee saying to me that I couldn't research them in uniform, and I couldn't interview them in my own office. They had to be, because it couldn't be seen that I was in a position of power over them. So it might be that you have to just not manipulate, because manipulate has negative connotations, but you might not need to manage that situation slightly so that there is a degree of separation between you and your subjects.
Or ask somebody else to do it.
It might be that if it is a questionnaire, that it might be appropriate for another clinician to collect the information, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have another one. It's Rachel.
Hi there.
Just really conflicting advice that I've been given. So I was saying how great it was that these 2 research modules, they all feed into your dissertation at the end because you're working towards that.
Yeah.
And somebody I was talking to said, but I thought that the information so the work you did for one module in your Masters cannot be, you can't be given the credit for it twice. So
you're not being given you're not being given the credit for it twice. Basically, MCH 501 is a literature review that sits on its own as a thematic review.
Yeah.
You will take that review and you will have to amend it and manage it and change it, but it still will be the foundation of the review that goes into your dissertation. It won't be a cut and paste.
No. Well, I think that's possibly I was sounding far too jubilant about it, and they just.
But it does mean that the basis of it is there.
Yes.
The research proposal is then a research proposal, and then you've got to go on and do that study for your dissertation. So you're not getting credited for anything twice. It's just that it's building blocks.
It is, exactly. You've started yourself on that route, haven't you?
Absolutely.
So,
and it doesn't mean that you, because one of the things that Jenny, who does a dissertation, and I were very conscious of not doing assignments for assignment's sake. That actually this has to have a purpose, otherwise why make you do a literature review on a subject that you're not going to study in the future? It just seemed silly.
Yeah.
But no, you don't get to cut and paste it into the next bit. Yeah.
I didn't think you could. So obviously that's the way I obviously put it across that way. But I thought, I could do it on the same subject, but I could find...
Absolutely, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, so I've got a big subject, and I'm not quite sure which way to take it, but I'm finding an awful lot of background information that will still inform my literature review for my dissertation.
Oh, absolutely, and it may be that it just changes direction naturally, or that by the time you finish this literature review, your research question has a very, very different focus, and therefore you need to amend the literature review for your final dissertation submission. So no, it's a journey. But yeah, the building blocks are being put together, hopefully. You can still change your mind, of course. You can turn around in 6 months' time and say, no, I don't want to do anything about this subject, but I think at this level that's possibly rather unlikely. So, but we'll wait to see.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah?
It's Rebecca here, Rebecca Laws. Should I be really, really worried that I haven't completely pinned down my subject yet?
No, not at all. Hopefully you've got...
what I want to do, but I just can't quite find... I keep going down little roads and I keep getting pulled in different directions.
Yeah, and that's one of the joys of doing, or you might not feel it's a joy, but that's one of the joys, in my view, of doing a literature review, is that you will get pulled, but at some point you've got to turn to yourself and go, okay, right, stop being pulled around and get on with it, because you do have an assignment to write. So there's a sort of, you've just got to nail it down at some point. It doesn't mean that all the reading and all the other little journeys haven't been incredibly valuable, because they will have been. And I always say this to people, that no reading is worthless But it is time, I think, we're getting to the middle of November now.
I need to get on with it.
You need to say, okay, the journey's been fantastic, but I need to actually pinpoint my destination now. So, that's the end of the geography analogy.
On the same kind of subject, I've found that there's kind of, I suppose, getting the background on the subject, so what I would call the history, because this is kind of going back to 1995 or whatever.
Yeah.
How much of that is relevant in your kind of introduction to your topic?
Some of it is, because certainly, depending on which subject area you're picking, and I'm thinking, for example, something like developments in critical care, which is what I'm looking at the moment, you have to go back to 1999 and that sort of huge Department of Health shift. So if there's you sort of have to go back to that point to set the scene. But there's research that was done 15 years ago isn't relevant any longer. So there's a scene setting and there's key pieces of information. You don't want to spend too much time on literature that's no longer relevant.
No, but there is a certain amount of scene setting required for some, like you say, like kind of shifts in government, what they want you to do.
Absolutely.
And it kind of shows why we've got to where we're at now, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there is. And that's a very, very important part of the literature. Is to tell me where I'm starting. It's a great Cornish expression when you ask for direction, isn't there? When you say, well, I wouldn't have started from here.
Yeah. I love that saying.
No, I wouldn't start from here. I'm not saying anything rude about the Cornish, though. I promise. I'm married to a Cornishman. I'm not saying anything rude. Okay, any other questions? No? Right, I'm going to stop the recording now. As I said, there's going to be, you've got 2 more sessions and I'm not running either of them. You've got Heather and you've got Bridie doing the next 2. And I would really like you to do your module evaluation form at some point. That would be fantastic. And please be as constructive as possible in your criticism and comments, because it only helps with the development of the module. Just because I'm not doing the next 2 sessions doesn't mean I'm not around. I'm available for email, and if you want to have a chat, sometimes it's easier to do it over the phone. I'm happy to have a telephone conversation at any point. Okay, so don't think just because I'm not doing the next 2 sessions I'm not around for support, because I am. And then, as I said, I'm very happy to look at a piece or a draft and a couple of pages, whatever, in the run-up to submission. Okay? Is that all right? Is everybody happy? Everybody that's here?
Yes.
Great. And I've worked out my technology, so I'm thrilled. So I will speak to you all soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.